One book, one extraordinary life. 48 chapters of saints, science, and the search for God.
I'm Kai,
And I'm Maya.
and this is our take on Autobiography of a Yogi, chapter by chapter. America. Yogananda is meditating, hidden in the storeroom of the Ranchi school. Boxes stacked around him in the dusty afternoon light. It's a private spot, hard to find, which is exactly why he's there. And suddenly, the vision comes. Not gradually, not as a whisper, as a panoramic flood of Western faces, pouring past his inner eye like a movie screen unfolding. Wave after wave of them, gazing at him intensely, an entire multitude sweeping across the stage of consciousness.
And he writes about this moment with such wonder, such clarity. He says these faces are sweeping across his awareness, hundreds of them, thousands, all turning to look at him, all attentive. It's a vision, but it feels like something more than imagination. It feels like a calling, like he's seeing something that hasn't happened yet, but is already written into his destiny, like the future is trying to speak to him.
The storeroom door opens. One of the young students finds him, as they always do. You can't hide for long at a school full of boys. Come here, Bimal, Yogananda says. There's something different in his voice, something certain. I have news for you. The Lord is calling me to America.
And Bimal, this boy, he repeats it back in complete disbelief. To America? Like Yogananda just said he was going to the moon. You know, for a Bengali Swami, for anyone in India in 1920, America was impossibly far, impossibly foreign. It was the West, the materialistic West, the spiritual wilderness, the land of industry and commerce and forgetfulness. That's what they'd been taught. That's what everyone believed.
But Yogananda responds with such humor, such lightness. He says, yes, I am going forth to discover America, like Columbus. He thought he had found India. Surely there is a karmic link between those two lands. Wait, he's already joking about the absurdity, the improbability of it. But here's what matters. He also knows something the boy doesn't. He knows this is real. He knows it's already decided.
Within hours, the whole school knows. A Swami leaving India to go to America to teach yoga and spirituality? Unheard of, unprecedented. The news spreads through the dormitories, the classrooms, the kitchen. And then comes the part that really matters, the harder part. He had to tell his father, because his father had sacrificed everything for him. Everything.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really tender. His father had sacrificed so much for Yogananda's education, had supported his spiritual path even when it meant refusing that prestigious railway job, the Bengal-Nagpur Railway, a senior position, stability, everything a father wants for his son in a traditional society. And Yogananda said no. He told his father no, and his father accepted it. But now his son is asking him to accept something even harder. His son is leaving, not for a pilgrimage, not for a few years of study abroad, for an unspecified time, to an unknown country, across an ocean.
Yogananda writes about his father's initial response with real pain in the words. His father is devastated, taken aback. How can you go? He asks sternly. Who will finance you? Who will support you in a foreign land? He's worried about money, sure, but underneath that is something deeper, real fear, real loneliness, the visceral fear that he might never see his son again, that his son, who he's invested his entire life in, is being taken away from him by this spiritual calling.
And Yogananda's response is so beautiful, so honest. He says, the Lord will surely finance me. But then he adds something personal, something vulnerable, something that shows he understands his father's pain. He references his brother Ananta from years ago when Yogananda was in Agra. He had said the same thing to Ananta when he was worried. Perhaps God will put it into your mind to help me. He's not just trusting God in the abstract. He's also leaving the door open for his father's love to manifest. He's saying, Ad, I trust God, but I also trust you. I trust that if you truly understand what's happening, you'll help.
And the next day, something extraordinary happens. His father hands him a large check, large enough to support him in America for a significant time. Without explanation at first, just hands it over. And then after Yogananda receives it, he says something that just stops Yogananda in his tracks. His father says, I give you this money not in my capacity as a father, but as a faithful disciple of Lahiri Mahasaya. Go then to that far western land. Spread there the creedless teachings of Kriya Yoga.
So his father has completely transformed his resistance into blessing. He's not giving money as a father trying to keep his home or testing him. He's giving it as a spiritual disciple, understanding that his son's mission matters more than his own loneliness, more than his own grief, that his son is not abandoning him. He's serving something larger. That's an extraordinary moment of renunciation on the father's part, an act of spiritual maturity.
And Yogananda is moved to tears, deep tears. He writes about it with such reverence. He says, "I was immensely touched at the selfless spirit in which Father had been able to quickly put aside his personal desires. The just realization had come to him during the preceding night that no ordinary desire for foreign travel was motivating my voyage. His father understood something overnight. The guru had given permission. This was not whim, this was not rebellion. This was dharma, this was spiritual duty. And a father's love, when it's truly spiritual, aligns itself with dharma, even when it hurts."
But even with his father's blessing, even with the vision he saw at Ranchi, Yogananda is honest about his own fear. He's not trying to hide it or downplay it. He writes that as he prepared to leave Master and his native land for the unknown shores of America, he experienced real trepidation. Not doubt about whether to go, but anxiety about the journey itself. He'd heard many stories about the materialistic Western atmosphere, so fundamentally different from the spiritual background of India, which is pervaded with centuries of sacred lineages and saints.
There's humor in how he describes it, yeah, but also genuine anxiety, real concern underneath. He's about to leave everything he knows, his guru, his school, his country, the whole spiritual ecology that has sustained him since childhood, the ashrams, the saints, the mountains, the sacred rivers. And he's going to a place he's never been, to teach something that most Westerners have never heard of. Here's the thing, to a culture he doesn't understand, speaking a language he's barely practiced. It's overwhelming when you think about it clearly.
So he does what he's always done in moments of deepest crisis. He prays, but not casual prayer. He prays with what he calls adamant determination, an iron will directed toward God. He wants God's blessing and assurance that he won't lose himself in what he fears might be the overwhelming materialism of the West, that he'll remain centered in his practice, that he'll remember his guru. And then, in response to this desperate prayer, something extraordinary happens.
He's praying in a room on the Gorpar Road in Serampore. The intensity of his prayer reaches a crescendo. He's muffling his sobs, crying out silently to God. And at noon, after hours of this persistent prayer, his brain can barely stand the pressure of his inner passion. The force of his longing is almost physical. If he cried out once more with increased depth, he felt his brain would split. The agony is overwhelming. The need for assurance is overwhelming. And then there's a knock at the door.
A young man in the scanty garb of a renunciate enters, and Yogananda immediately recognizes him. He must be Babaji, he thinks, because the man before him has the exact features of a younger Lahiri Mahasaya, the great saint from the lineage. This is the deathless guru himself, the master who initiated Lahiri Mahasaya centuries ago, the guru who has been guiding the entire Kriya lineage from the shadows, here, now, in this room.
Babaji speaks in Hindi, melodiously, and he gives Yogananda the exact assurance he's been praying for, not through words alone, but through presence, through spiritual transmission. Our Heavenly Father has heard your prayer. He commands me to tell you, follow the behests of your guru and go to America. Fear not, you will be protected. These words land in Yogananda's heart like the answer to a prayer that goes beyond words.
This isn't just reassurance. This is transmission. This is the lineage speaking. Babaji, who initiated Lahiri Mahasaya centuries ago, who established Kriya Yoga, is now blessing Yogananda's American mission. And then Babaji says something even more profound.
You are the one I have chosen to spread the message of Kriya Yoga in the West. Long ago, I met your guru Yukteswar at a Kumbh Mela. I told him then I would send you to him for training. So Babaji is saying this has all been arranged. Your meeting with Sri Yukteswar was arranged by me. Your discipleship, your training, your becoming a Swami, your vision of America, it's all been orchestrated by the deathless guru.
Yogananda is completely overwhelmed. He falls prostrate before the deathless master. He feels like his entire being is sanctified, electrified through the presence of this ancient guru, through the touch of cosmic consciousness itself. And when Babaji moves toward the door, Yogananda tries to follow. He wants to stay with him, to serve him, to not let go. The pull is overwhelming. This is the source of the entire lineage. This is the origin point of Kriya Yoga itself.
But Babaji says calmly, do not try to follow me. You will not be able to do so. And he walks away. Yogananda tries to pursue him out the door, but then he discovers something extraordinary. His feet are firmly rooted to the floor. He physically cannot move. It's like a physical manifestation of spiritual obedience, like his body itself is receiving a teaching. He can't follow his guru because he's supposed to go to America. He's not meant to cling to the guru's physical form. He's meant to carry the guru's transmission across the world.
After a few minutes, his feet are free, and Yogananda goes into deep meditation. And in that meditation, he's thanking God not just for answered prayer, but for the meeting with Babaji, because this is the culmination of his spiritual journey so far. The presence of the deathless guru has touched him, sanctified him, prepared him for what's coming.
This moment is so important because it's the pivot point. Everything before it has been seeking. Everything after it is mission. And the teaching underneath is something Yogananda never states directly but lives completely. The teaching is that the guru's transmission extends beyond national boundaries, beyond time itself. The guru can send his disciples anywhere, to anyone, and they will carry his spiritual current with them.
Yeah, exactly. Because Kriya Yoga isn't religion tied to geography or culture. It's a science, a technology of consciousness that works on the nervous system, on the breath, on the subtle energy body. It doesn't care if you're Bengali or American, Hindu or Christian. The practice works the same way.
So with Babaji's blessing firmly in place, Yogananda leaves India. In August 1920, he boards a ship called the City of Sparta, the first passenger boat sailing for America after the close of World War I. And the irony is that he can only get passage after having these miraculous red tape difficulties removed. It's like the universe is confirming that this is meant to happen, you know?
During the 2-month voyage, a fellow passenger discovers that Yogananda is the Indian delegate to the Boston Congress of Religious Liberals, and this passenger approaches him, says, "Swami Yogananda, please favor the passengers with a lecture next Thursday night. I think we would all benefit by a talk on the battle of life and how to fight it."
Yogananda is terrified. He's never lectured in English before, only in Bengali, and he writes about this with such vulnerability. "Alas, I had to fight the battle of my own life," I discovered on Wednesday. He's trying to organize his ideas into a lecture in English, and his thoughts are like a wild colt refusing to cooperate with the laws of English grammar.
So Wednesday, he gives up. He abandons all preparation completely. He decides that he's just going to trust Sri Yuktesor's assurance that his words on yoga will be heard in the West. And he goes before the Thursday audience in the saloon of the steamer. No eloquence rises to his lips. He just stands there, speechless. Seriously, for 10 minutes.
And then something shifts. After 10 minutes of silence, the audience realizes what's happening. This isn't a breakdown. This is a teacher who's beyond the need for words. And they start to laugh, not mockingly, with delight, with recognition of something genuine.
After that endurance contest of 10 minutes, his thoughts finally begin to flow naturally in English. 45 minutes he speaks, and the audience is completely attentive the whole time. When he finishes, they give him standing ovations, invitations to lecture at other groups, and he thinks to himself, "This is Sri Yuktesor. The Master is with me, transcending all barriers of time and space."
The city of Sparta docks near Boston in late September. On the 6th of October 1920, Yogananda addresses the Congress with his maiden speech in America. It's well received, and the Secretary of the American Unitarian Association writes about it officially. She says Yogananda brought the greetings of his association to the Congress, that in fluent English and forcible delivery, he gave an address of philosophical character on the science of religion. And here's the line that matters. She writes, "Religion, he maintained, is universal, and it is one."
So here's the teaching crystallizing. Not about Hinduism or yoga specifically, but about the universality of spiritual truth. The Congress attendees understood that this young Swami from India wasn't saying, "become Hindu." He was saying something more radical. He was saying all genuine paths lead to the same truth, that the common element in religion can be universalized, even if customs and beliefs can't.
And because of his father's generous check, Yogananda is able to stay in America after the Congress. 4 years he spends in Boston, in humble circumstances. He gives public lectures, teaches classes, writes a book of poems called Songs of the Soul, with a preface by Dr. Frederick Robinson, president of the College of the City of New York.
So he's not just teaching yoga to the spiritually curious, he's becoming a published author. He's starting to build something. And then in the summer of 1924, he begins a transcontinental tour. He speaks in every major city, ends his Western trip with a vacation in Alaska. By 1925, he's established an American headquarters on the Mount Washington Estates in Los Angeles.
And he sends pictures of these activities back to Sri Yukteswar in India. Pictures of the school, the students, the classes, and his guru responds with a postcard. This is from August of 1926.
And Sri Yukteswar writes, "Child of my heart, O Yogananda, seeing the photos of your school and students, what joy comes in my life I cannot express in words. I am melting in joy to see your yoga students of different cities."
So the Guru's blessing has manifested completely. Aha! The vision Yogananda saw in the storeroom at Ranchi has come true. He came to America, he taught the creedless teachings, he found thousands ready to receive the time-tested soul teachings. The mission is unfolding exactly as it was meant to.
And that's really the teaching of this first half of chapter 37. It's not about the logistics of starting a movement or the techniques of public speaking. It's about the transmission of the Guru extending beyond borders, beyond time, beyond death. It's about how a spiritual master, even centuries old like Babaji, can guide a disciple's journey across the world. How the Guru's presence is not limited by geography or national boundaries. How the Guru communicates not through lectures, but through presence, through blessing, through the transmission of consciousness itself.
The faith that moves a mountain. That's what this chapter is really about. Yogananda had nothing material to rely on. He had anxiety about his English. He had no guarantee he'd be received in America. He had no connections, no infrastructure, no institutional support. But he had the assurance of Babaji himself, the living presence of the deathless Guru. And that was enough. That was everything. He stepped across the Atlantic and brought an entire spiritual technology with him, a science that works on the nervous system, a practice that's independent of belief.
And here's what I find so moving about this moment, His father gives him money, Sri Yukteswar gives him permission, Babaji gives him assurance, but Yogananda still has to do the work. He still has to face his fear of English. He still has to stand before an audience and find his voice. He still has to navigate a foreign land. The Guru's blessing doesn't mean he gets a free pass. It means he gets the strength to walk through his own fear.
Exactly. And in the next episode, we'll see how he navigates those early American years, how he teaches people who have no frame of reference for what he's offering, how he builds the self-realization fellowship from nothing but persistence and the Guru's grace, how the Guru's blessing continues to guide him through challenges he couldn't possibly have anticipated, because the mission is real, and the transmission is real, and the Guru's presence is ever with him, transcending all barriers of time and space.
See you next time.